At 3 years old, I felt like the Lord was speaking to me, and he said, "Sing, Johnny, sing." And this marked my life. I grew up in a Christian household with Christian parents, highly involved in the church. Definitely music was there from a very young age. But as I continued on in high school and went to this Christian school my whole life, when I got out of high school and got into college, I dove deeper into drugs and just living a life outside of the church and Christendom, and quickly surrounded myself with people that weren't the best influences, and started to sell drugs and lived this season of my life for 2 or 3 years or so. In the midst of that, got arrested 4 times. I was involved in 3 really, really bad car accidents where I almost died and I almost killed someone else. I remember the first accident I had. I was really young. I was on the way to go visit a friend to smoke weed. I ran this stop sign and hit this car on the side, and someone in the back seat, she wasn't wearing her seatbelt, and she flew right out of the window 15, 20 feet from the vehicle. And it was so crazy because I got out of the car and she was laying there with her head wide, open, and just blood gushing out, and she wasn't moving. And in that moment, my life really could have changed. In that moment, her life obviously had changed and could have been much worse. But God, in his mercy and his grace for her and for me, she completely recuperated and had no mental issues. And I would have easily been in jail for some time if that would have ended up differently. But it was just God's mercy protecting me and saving me, even in the midst of my disobedience and where I was. But that whole lifestyle and all of those things and the drug life just led me to a place 13 years ago now, where I was just in my room and I had tried to stop in my own power and my own accord. Went from one drug to another, just trying to fill myself and find purpose. And I realized I couldn't do it. I couldn't stop the life I was living. And I just got down on my knees and I lifted up my hands and I said, "Lord, this life that I'm living, I can't stop it in my own will. But I know that you're up there and I know that you have the power to do it." And I just had a moment of surrender. I remember crying, and I remember just having a real moment of surrender with the Lord. I began to play guitar even more. I began to worship Jesus in a special way and just encounter him in a real way. I went back to those when I was 3 years old, and I remember God speaking to me and him saying, "Sing, Johnny, sing," this phrase that just has stuck with me my whole life. So I started asking God some hard questions, and I was just like, "Lord, things have not been working out for me doing them my own way. But if music is really where you want me to go, confirm it so I can go 100% after it." And he confirmed it in a really special way. The very next day, I knew God was calling me to music. I began to put videos on YouTube. I began to sing at open mics, began to grow more as a worship leader and lead worship in different churches. Certainly the Lord began to do a big work in me, and I started putting myself out there. And from the videos that I started putting up on YouTube and just putting faith to those words that God spoke to me, this show, The Voice, found me, and they had scouts looking, and they reached out to me for an executive audition to go to LA for the first time to audition for this show. And thankfully, I was able to go do this audition. I had Adam Levine and Blake Shelton turn for me, and I chose Adam Levine. And it's been some years now since that show, but it was an amazing platform to tell people of what God did in my life, what he's doing in my life, and bring people to know Jesus in a real way. I remember being in a Nashville writing retreat with Integrity Music, and I was just doing my thing and meeting people, and I met Ana Paula Valadao. And I really didn't know who she was at the moment, but we became good friends. And on the way back, we were on the same plane ride home because she's living in Boca Raton with her husband, and she has a church there. And I was in Miami, so we bonded on that. And she was just like, "Johnny, I feel like you should go to CFNI." She told me she was a CFNI alumni, and she told me what a blessing it was for her. And I was like, "No, Anna, that doesn't make any sense. I went to a Christian school my whole life. I'm operating with the Lord now, ministering with God." And I just kind of turned it down. But we agreed for me to come visit to a Voice of Healing, CFNI Voice of Healing conference a couple years ago. And that was my first experience, just walking into the IB and feeling God's presence in a super special and anointed way. And then getting to actually sing on that stage where so many have gone before me, and of course, ministering with Ana Paula and just being blessed by who she is. God began to open up the door there for me to come to the school and even receive a scholarship and just feel God's 100% acknowledgement that he wanted me here. What's really incredible about CFNI is that it's not only for the person straight out of high school, or a person in their 20s where they're just kind of, discovering God's purpose and want training in Bible and just need to go to school. but it's also for the person who's maybe older than that and established in their career. And it's almost like it feels like it's a wrong move going to the outside eye. But man, oh man, does God have such a purpose with you giving your all. There's something about us giving our all to God and Him being faithful when we see we've laid it down at the altar. And He always multiplies. He always gives us more than what we can expect. And I've seen that in my life, that even if it seems like, you know, to your friends it doesn't make sense, to the public it doesn't make sense, if it makes sense to God, if God is calling you, if you feel that tugging, don't deny it, don't ignore it, because only the best awaits you.